I didn't expect how unstable I would feel. Once you have a baby come out of your body, everything just feels loose and strange. The feeling of I can't breathe, that was a huge stressful thing just because of, like I said, the fragile state of mind I was in. I think I'm just terrible at growing succulents, y'all. If I could go back and do one thing differently in my postpartum with my daughter, hello, welcome back to the channel. It's been so long since I filmed any long form content, but I think today I'm finally ready. For anyone who's new, my name is Maren. I'm a Christian wife, mama, and homemaker, and I live in the beautiful state of Michigan. Today, I just want to have a casual sit-down chat while I try to fix this mess of a succulent pot about how I focused more on healing this time around postpartum. There are so many things I either wasn't aware of when I had my first baby, or I just didn't have the energy to pursue, or I almost felt was selfish. Before we begin, if you enjoy this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel if you've not already. Hey, this is future Maren from the end of the video, who forgot to say this at the beginning, because as you can see, the succulents are done right here. If you're on Instagram, go check us out at @ThankfulThriftiness or under the name Maren Bella. We post a lot more short form content there, a lot more updates on projects, project ideas, tips on how to save money, all the fun things. There's a little bit more of a community aspect on Instagram if you're already there. I'd love to talk to you soon. I think this is full of mold. Let me go wash my hands first. Yeah, I don't think I've touched this potting soil in years, and now it's full of mold. So we're just gonna I'm actually gonna grab something else. Hold on again. This is all fine, because I kind of have to dry out the ones I wanna propagate before I do anything with them anyways. That gives me a chance to get dirt and all that. And I have these adorable little tiny tools from this bonsai tree kit that I got. Like these awesome little shears. So the first thing I want to talk about with postpartum healing is just the idea of focusing on healing. When I had my daughter, I think I believed it was a little bit selfish to focus as much on healing. I didn't expect how unstable I would feel. Once you have a baby come out of your body, everything just feels loose and strange. And I'm not talking about body weight and just your body being different. I'm talking about the feeling of I can't breathe. It feels like my organs are kind of all over the place. So that really caught me by surprise with my daughter, but with my son, I was a lot more prepared for sensations like that. The birth with my son went fairly well. This is why I have a little shovel. Whew. Yeah, this guy needed to come out. I don't know if you can see that, but way overgrown. And I think the most important thing about healing postpartum is obviously giving your body the 6 weeks of not trying to work out or do anything strenuous, but also the mental safety that you need to give yourself. I don't know of a better way to phrase that, because I know that can sound kind of woke and interesting, but you just are kind of fragile right after you have a baby. So I'm just chopping off the top of this really leggy succulent, and I will let the bottom of this dry out, and then I'll plant it and it'll grow a whole new succulent. Kind of give it a refresh or restart. And then I'll save these leaves and propagate them. So this time around, I was a lot more forgiving of myself when I felt like I couldn't invite as many people over to see the baby. I felt less beholden to people. Oops. That they quote unquote deserve to see my baby. And that's not to be rude or selfish. It's just only certain close family members really had the right to meet my baby early on, as in people who actually are invested in our lives. That's not to say that those who didn't meet the baby early aren't invested in our lives. I just was a lot more choosy on who I said, hey, you want to come meet the baby to. And that helped me a lot, because your brain is going through all sorts of crazy hormonal things right after you give birth. And also we were adjusting to life with 2 children now. So of course, I was so thankful to see a lot of people, early postpartum, a lot of people blessed us with amazing meals. I just didn't feel as bad about saying no or just not offering. There are definitely some people I wish could have met the baby earlier on, but it's okay. I did send pictures and videos to those people. So I think most of them understood, at least. I found that focusing on healing, whatever that method was, really paid off in the long run on how much quicker I felt like I could get back to things. That could just be the fact that it was my second kid, or it could be that we took it a little bit slower, at least I did, more mentally. Although unfortunately, a week and a half after I had my son, my husband had to go to flight school for a week. That was so hard. But I was able to stay with my family, which was wonderful. They took great care of us. So I will put that caveat in there. That was a huge stressful thing just because of, like I said, the fragile state of mind I was in. Now, this little guy here was one that I did this to, and I started a whole new succulent or refreshed the old one, and he just decided to bolt too. I think I'm just terrible at growing succulents, y'all. I can propagate them as good as anybody, but when it comes to keeping them alive, I'm horrible. Let's talk staying warm. I do not subscribe to Chinese medicine. I want to say that first of all, but they seem to have a lot more information on how to take care of people postpartum than anything else I've come across. So there were some ideas that I took from it. Although again, I'm a Christian. I do not subscribe to Chinese medicine because from my understanding, it has some pagan roots. But the idea of staying warm, keeping cozy, I really focused on, and it helped a lot with mental stability. Like I said before, it's a huge mental battle as well as a physical battle postpartum. It's all tied together. And the warmer, the cozier I stayed, somehow it helped my brain not feel like everything was falling apart. Not that I avoided cold things entirely. For example, I was really enjoying a mixture of ginger ale and apple juice in ice early on. But when I could, I tried to eat and drink warmer things. I also have seen other people talk about how that can help with postpartum cramping. And I don't know if it did, but I definitely needed to do everything I could to try to help with postpartum cramping because it was really, really rough this time around. I remember one cramp in particular lasted like 2 minutes and I was shaking violently afterwards and I almost threw up. I think I received this plant right after I had my daughter, so that was like 2 years ago. I gotta say, I did pretty well, all things considered. I don't know if you can see, but that's what we have so far. All these things will turn into other plants, although I don't know if I will actually turn all of these into another plant, but there's the option there if I want it. I remember so many people took such good care of us, brought us wonderful meals. One in particular that I remember vividly and was so wonderful was someone from our church who literally grew up in China. She made me wontons, like homemade dumplings. They were life-giving. I don't know what she put in them. She said it was so simple, but no, they were the best thing I possibly have had in my life. Postpartum, for me at least, everything tastes amazing because of how disgusting everything tastes when I'm pregnant. But yeah, that was just exceptional. Along that same thread, I focused a lot on nourishment, and my mom really paid attention to this when we were staying with them right after I had the baby because my husband was at flight school. She fed me a lot of sweet potatoes, just a lot of wonderful things that rebuilt my strength because I could hardly eat anything when I was pregnant with my son, including meat. I couldn't eat any meat. I'd throw it right back up and I had horrible, horrible heartburn. So there wasn't a lot of good things I could take in. Nothing that required any amount of digestion at least. So of course, nourishing your body helps with all of its processes. I've been eating 2 burger patties pretty much every morning since about 2 weeks after my son was born, just to try to rebuild whatever protein stores were taken away, rebuild muscle strength. I don't even know what all I know is it makes me feel good. So I'm gonna keep doing it. Sweet potatoes were something I really craved and thought my body was maybe telling me I needed to eat, so I consumed a lot of them. I feel a whole lot stronger now, and I'm so, so grateful for that. Some ways people supported me physically were by giving me the comfiest, coziest outfits. I was given a set of very heavy winter, like matching coordinating pajamas, and a set of summer ones. And I wore those 2 outfits, I think, every day for a solid 3 months. They were just amazing. And I don't even know, that's obviously not medical advice of any amount. None of this is, of course, got to put that in there. But somehow I felt so much better when I was wearing those. And then another friend sent me like 6 pairs of cozy socks. If you want to know what to get someone who is early postpartum, never show up without food. Ask them what they need, because chances are they have a list. And if all that fails, get her something comfy to wear. I was so spoiled both times I had my babies, but especially this time around, I think because we had most of the things for babies since we already had one kid. People just spoiled me rotten. I was so grateful. Oh, and I also wore those adult diapers instead of pads. I don't know where that was the last time I had a baby. I also had a little basket in the bathroom with all the things you need, you know. It's an adventure in the bathroom every time right after you give birth. It just is. And that helped me feel a lot more stable and secure. And it just was convenient because I could walk a lot better this time, which was nice. I only had a 1st-degree tear, not a 3rd-degree one. And that was night and day. I could walk so much better. So much better. Even though my son was an ounce less than 10 pounds and my daughter was like 8 pounds, 12 ounces, everything just felt less painful after the fact, other than the cramps. I got some of those After Ease herbal drops or whatnot. I don't know how much they did, but I do know I will be getting them next time because I'll take any help I can get in that area. Whew. This guy's looking rough. If I could go back and do one thing differently in my postpartum with my daughter versus my son, I would have worn the stomach binder that I made this time around. It's called a Ben Kung, I don't know how you pronounce it, belly binder. You've probably seen it on social media. It lives up to its hype. I had split abs with both my babies when I was pregnant, or diastasis recti, I think it's called. And when I was 4 months postpartum with my daughter, when it was time to start, trying to bring those abs back together, I had a 4-finger space in between the 2 sides of my abs. With my son, at 4 months, there was a 2-finger space, actually a little less than 2-finger space in between my abs when it was time to start trying to bring my abs back together. It was so easy to make. I made it for literally $12. It did take a few minutes to put on each day, but once you get the hang of it, you really don't want to go back. And I never, ever would condone neglecting your children to take care of yourself, but you do need to take care of yourself, especially right after you've pushed a baby out of your body. It gave me more of that mental stability, holding my organs in place to help them go back where they need to. It felt like a hug, and I literally couldn't believe it when it worked with my abs. I put it on the day after I had my baby, and I wore it until 12 weeks postpartum. I want to say this loud and clear. It is not a corset. It looks terrible underneath clothing, but it's to help your body in the long run. If you want to make one, let me know. I might be able to post a video on how to make one, and you should check. There are plenty of tutorials online on how to wear it. You kind of have to mess with it until you figure out exactly what you want it to be like. I will say I don't like how it's promoted online. It's promoted as something that just shrinks you right back to your former shape. It does not do that. A lot of people post videos saying, oh, the day I had my baby versus a month after I wore this belly binder. Girl, you had a baby a month ago. Your body is flushing out a lot of fluids. A lot of things are going back into place. Your uterus is going from like this big down to this big. So I'm not going to credit your stomach binder for doing that. So don't be deceived by that. You can't expect results that are skewed in that way. All right, so I got all my succulents put into this container to hopefully dry out, and then I can plant them in a few days and hopefully they'll take off. I've got a ton here. I've never had this much. That's all I've got for today. Thank you so much for watching. please, please, please let me know in the comments anything you found particularly helpful in healing postpartum, because I plan to have more babies and I will take all the tips I can get. Also, let me know things you thought would work but made your journey worse. Anyways, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you sometime.